Samsung's August 2021 Unpacked event has just finished, and we got a bunch of new devices: the Galaxy Z Fold 3, the Z Flip 3, the Galaxy Watch 4, and the Galaxy Buds 2. So here are the most important facts that you need to know about each of these devices. Starting off with the Z Fold 3, the changes that we got over the Z Fold 2 are extremely small. They're so small that I wouldn't even call this a Fold 2S. Design-wise, the Fold 3 now features a frosted glass back as opposed to the regular glass that the Fold 2 had. I'm personally a massive fan of this, as it seems like the Phantom Black version looks exactly like the S21 Ultra does, which in my opinion is the best looking phone there is, at least from the back. Now, aside from the Phantom Black version, we also get Phantom Silver and Phantom Green, with a hinge also matching the color of the phone. So, for example, if you were to get a silver one, you would get this super nice looking silver frame on the front, whereas the Phantom Black one is of course more stealth. There's also the Thumb Brown edition, which, same as before, looks absolutely incredible. You essentially buy this box that comes with the Z Fold 3, the Buds 2, the Watch 4, plus some unique Z Fold 3 cases as well. However, the Thumb Brown box costs thousands, so it's clearly not intended for the general public. Going back to the Z Fold 3, we also have Gorilla Glass Victus on the back, which is now 50% stronger than Gorilla Glass 6 on the Z Fold 2. The cover screen was already Gorilla Glass Victus in case you're wondering. Now, aside from the back and the new colors, the camera module design is a bit different now, so it's a bit more rounded, although I do prefer the way the Z Fold 2 looked in this regard, as it had a more unique camera module design, whereas the Fold 3 kinda looks like the Fold 1 again. The last design change is in terms of the thickness. So when unfolded, the Fold 3 is now 6.4mm, down from 6.9, and when folded, the thickest part is now 16mm, down from 16.8, while the thinnest part is now 14.4, which is actually thicker than the Fold 2, which was 13.8. What this means is that the Fold 3 has a more uniform design, rather than the super sloped design that the Fold 2 had, and it will also feel a tiny bit thinner in your pocket because of that. Speaking of how it feels in your pocket, the Fold 3 is also lighter, at 271 grams versus 282 that the Fold 2 had. Now, this is mostly thanks to the brand new Armor aluminum frame, which is lighter, yet 10% more durable, and according to Samsung, it is the strongest frame on any phone out there. And actually, there is one more body change that I do want to mention, which is water resistance. You see, the Fold 3 is the world's very first foldable phone to be water resistant. But there is a catch. Even though Samsung has reportedly tested the Fold 3 under 1.5 meters of water for 30 minutes, they specifically mention not advised for beach or pool use. Which to me sounds like if you're caught in the rain, your Fold 3 would be fine, but just don't submerge it in water because we're still not there yet with foldables. And the X from the IPX8 rating means that there is no dust resistance at all. So if any dust or sand gets into that hinge, even though it will not reach the rest of the components, it might get it stuck and break it. So you have to be very careful with that. Right, let's talk about the displays. So the cover display now gets a 120Hz refresh rate, up from 60Hz that we had before. But other than that, this is the exact same panel. The main display is also almost the same as on the Z Fold 2, with the exception of being 29% brighter, having an 80% more durable screen protector, and no longer having that punch hole camera. This is because the internal front camera is now under the display, making the Fold 3 Samsung's very first phone to use such a technology. You can still see it from certain angles, not necessarily the camera itself, but a pixel arrangement on top of it, which is more sparse and hence lower in resolution to allow the camera to see through those pixels. Speaking of less pixels, this camera is also lower in resolution, so it's a 4-megapixel sensor now, down from the 10-megapixel camera that we had before. But hey, we do get a full screen experience with 0 interruptions. And realistically, I pretty much never used the internal camera to take selfies anyway, as I mostly used the one on the cover since it was much easier to hold. Samsung envisions you using the internal camera for video calls and then the cover camera for selfies, or you can even use the back cameras for selfies too if you flip the phone this way. Speaking of the back cameras, these are unfortunately unchanged from the Z Fold 2, which, as some of you might know, actually use the same main and ultrawide modules as the S20 and the same telephoto module as the S10 from 2019. I was hoping for some actual improvements here to match the S21 Ultra. Like, I wouldn't even mind a gigantic camera bump, but unfortunately, just because Samsung wanted to make this phone as thin as possible, they just could not include the massive modules from the S21 Ultra, as those would have simply been impossible to fit in this thin body. Okay, now in terms of the specs, we still have the same 12GB of RAM with the same 256 baseline model, but Samsung said that there will also be a 512GB model as well, but just like with the Z Fold 2, this will likely be a China and South Korea exclusive model. We also get a Snapdragon 888 chip up from the 865 Plus, with the biggest improvement here being the smaller 5nm manufacturing process from the 7nm that we had before, so we should see a slightly better battery life because of this. Or maybe not, because the battery itself is actually smaller at 4400 mAh compared to 45, but in combination with the more efficient chip, I would say that it should give us about the same battery life overall as we had before, maybe just a tiny bit worse because of the 120Hz cover screen, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. So far, it seems like you might just be better off buying a discounted or even a used Z Fold 2, as the improvements are quite minor. But there is actually one improvement which I think you'll really like, which is S Pen support. You will have to buy the S Pen separately, unfortunately, and there's no way of storing it inside a phone like you could with the Galaxy Note line, unless of course you buy the S Pen case, which Samsung does sell for your Fold, but it will make your Fold even thicker and even wider, but if you want it, it is there. Speaking of the S Pen, there are actually two models, so make sure you choose carefully. The first one is basically a stylus. It has no battery, no Bluetooth, so it is very similar to the old S Pens that we got in the very first Galaxy Notes. The second model is called the S Pen Pro, and this one is noticeably longer, noticeably thicker, and heavier. It does have a built-in battery and Bluetooth, which allows you to do air commands and air gestures and actions, and this one does actually work with any S Pen enabled Samsung phone, not just the Fold 3. But if you also plan on buying that case to store your S Pen in, only the smaller S Pen would work with that, so keep this in mind. The Fold 3 costs £1,600 in the UK, which is cheaper than the original price of the Z Fold 2, which was £1,800. But I was personally hoping for an even lower price here, something like $1,500 or $1,450. If you already have a Fold 2, obviously the changes are not big enough to warrant the upgrade. But if you have the Fold 1 or you don't even have a Fold at all, then the Fold 3 is basically the best foldable phone you can buy, by far. Okay, Daniel from the past here with a message from Setapp, our sponsor for this video. Setapp is an alternative to purchasing apps separately where everything is free, and you get some very high quality and well-known apps, some that would normally cost a lot on their own. The only thing you need is Setapp's monthly $9.99 plan, which can save you hundreds of dollars, especially if you're like me and you're constantly looking for apps to improve your workflow. So if you want to take control of your personal finances, or be more organized at work, or just monitor your network traffic or the health of your hard drives, Setapp has you covered. They have everything from creativity apps to productivity apps to Mac tools, and if you're unsure as to what app you need, you can also search for a specific topic such as battery or disk or calendar, and Setapp would automatically find the right app for you. I'm using Setapp myself on a daily basis. In fact, I recently bought a full year of Setapp's license just because of how good it is. And you can try Setapp for free for the first 7 days by using the link below. But we also have a second foldable to talk about, which is the Z Flip 3. It now has this dual tone look, where the top portion, which houses the new outer display as well, this one is glossy, while the rest of the phone is matte, just like the back of the Z Fold 3. I absolutely love the way this phone looks, especially the white version, which in combination with the black top reminds me of the Panda Pixel 2 XL, still one of the nicest looking backs on any phone. But the Flip 3 also comes in a bunch of other great looking colors, such as cream, gray, green, lavender, phantom black, and pink. And Samsung will also be selling some pretty unique Z Flip 3 cases, which will allow you to grip the phone better when you're using it in one hand. Speaking of usability, they have made the phone thicker when folded, at 15.9mm compared to 15.4, but when unfolded, it is actually thinner at 16.9 versus 7.2, so it should feel thinner and nicer to use in the hand. And it seems like Samsung is also using Armor Aluminium, the same one as they're using on the Z Fold 3, on the Flip 3 as well. But the biggest change by far is the outer display, which is increased to a much larger 1.9-inch panel from the 1.1-inch that we had before. However, since the aspect ratio has been changed as well, the outer screen is now 4 times larger than on the original Z Flip. This allows you to do a bunch of extra interactions, like you can now swipe from each way to access things such as notifications, quick toggles, widgets, and even Samsung Pay. And what's really cool about this new screen is that if you also have the brand new Galaxy Watch 4, you can apply a watch face to the Z Flip's cover screen, and it will automatically apply the same one on the Watch 4. Speaking of the display, the main display is pretty much the same as before, with the exception that it is a 120Hz panel, just like on the Z Fold 3. The outer screen, however, is still 60Hz, but on a small screen like that, you wouldn't really need anything higher. Now, from the videos that Samsung shared, there seems to be no visible crease at all on the Z Flip 3. That's something that we'll definitely have to test once we have it in the studio, so definitely subscribe if you're enjoying this video so far and you want to see more foldable related content. Also, the Flip 3 doesn't have an in-display camera like the Z Fold 3 does. In fact, we get the same front camera as we had before. Same story on the back. The cameras are exactly the same as on the previous Flip, which had the same main sensor as the Galaxy S10 and the same ultra-wide as the S10 in terms of the pixel size, but with a lower 12-megapixel resolution compared to 16 megapixels. Now, when it comes to the specs, we still only have an 8GB of RAM option, but we at least do get another option in terms of storage, a 128GB option, which does actually help bring down the price, which I'll cover in just a second. The processor has also been updated to the 5nm Snapdragon 888 from the 865 Plus that we had before, and in case you're wondering, the battery has actually remained the same at 3300 mAh. We also get stereo speakers on the Z Flip 3 from the mono speaker that we had before, and just like with the Fold 3, we also get IPX8 water resistance. Now, I did mention before that the Z Flip 3 was more affordable, and I was surprised when I heard the price. So the Z Flip 5G, the previous model, was £1,300 in the UK, and the Flip 3 is £949. That's £350 less expensive than the previous model, and it's also cheaper, by the way, than the iPhone 12 Pro. Yet this is foldable. Right, next up we have the Galaxy Watch 4, and there are actually two models of it, the regular 4 and the 4 Classic. The regular 4 is the equivalent of the Active, as it does not have a rotating bezel, whereas the Classic does, and it is also made out of stainless steel compared to aluminium. Personally, I much prefer the regular, as it just looks way more modern. The 4 comes in a bunch of different colors, so I also like that, and just like with the Flip, it also has this dual or even triple tone look. I think it looks great, and I'm super excited to try one. Now, aside from the new design, Samsung has also improved their health monitoring features. You can now measure your skeletal muscle, your body fat, BMI, body water, and more directly from your watch. Normally, you would need a smart scale to do this. And it will also measure your blood oxygen continuously when you're sleeping now, as well as detect snoring. We also get some performance improvements thanks to a 20% faster CPU, a 10% faster GPU, 50% more RAM, and also a 10% higher resolution display. The battery life has now been decreased, unfortunately, from 48 hours on the Galaxy Watch 3 to 40 hours. But the biggest change by far is that the Watch 4 now runs on Wear OS as opposed to Tizen. It still looks like Tizen, but under the hood, it is all Wear OS. And the upside of this is that you can use Google services such as Google Maps and Gmail and many others, plus you have access to the full suite of third-party Wear OS apps. The Watch 4 starts from £259 in the UK, which is £120 less than the newest Apple Watch, the Series 6. And finally, we have the Galaxy Buds 2. These now feature a new design with a dual-tone look where the case is always white, but the inside of the case and the buds themselves would have a matching color. The audio has been improved, the call quality has also been improved thanks to 3 mics, and we also have active noise cancelling, which according to Samsung can cut up to 98% of the ambient noise. Ambient mode is back and it has 3 different sound levels now, and there's also a fit test when you pair them, basically like with the AirPods Pro. Also, just like with the AirPods Pro, Samsung added automatic device switching for audio if you have a Samsung tablet, a Samsung phone, or a Samsung watch. But unlike the AirPods Pro, these cost only £139 in the UK compared to $250, which is what the AirPods Pros cost. Yet they offer you active noise cancelling. Yeah, I definitely want to check these out myself because for that price, They seem like an amazing deal, but let me know in the comments, what do you guys think about every single one of these new devices and which one catches your eye the most? For me, that's the Flip 3 and the Watch 4. But yeah, if you have enjoyed this video, definitely subscribe because we'll be doing individual videos on hopefully each of these products when we get them. So thank you for watching. I'm Daniel. This has been Son of Tech, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Son of Tech, signing out. Cheers.